Welcome back to Java Programming for Beginners, and today I'm going to just get you started on programming. We're going to start talking about Java, the programming language, and we're going to introduce you to some variables. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to note is the structure of this file right here, because here's our project, our source, default package, and here's our main Java file. Okay, so here all your code is going to be contained in classes, and this is our main class right here. And this opening bracket starts the code for the main class, and this closing bracket closes it. So all the code for our main class is in between here, and then that's how it works. And I mean, you list your variables for the class in this area, and each class is made up of variables and methods, and then you have your methods here, which we only have one. And this is your basic definition of a method. You either you give it a visibility type, which is public for this one. You say what it's going to return, and then you give it a name. And then here's our parameters, which we'll talk about parameters a lot more later. And then, your opening bracket and your closing bracket, and then here's all your code for the method. So very simple. Today we're really going to focus on variables and different data types. How you're going to declare them, how you're going to work with them, because you're going to use variables in every Java program you make. I mean, it's guaranteed. You're going to use variables. So I'm just going to start with an integer, which you declare as int. And the reason why you do this is in Java, you always have to declare your data type before you declare the name of the variable. And so this int represents integer. And so we're going to say integer age semicolon. Now, the semicolon, you need a semicolon at the end of every statement in Java. And it's just part of Java's syntax. So, and if you notice on the statement from the last tutorial, there's a semicolon too. But, it just kind of defines the end of the statement and helps the computer move everything along. So we have an integer age, and what this statement is just saying is it's kind of like reserving memory space for this variable called age. And we're not giving it a value or anything. It's just declaring space for the variable. And so to give it a value, we're going to say equals 23. And so there we go. That we're just, putting 23 into the variable age. And that's how you declare a variable. I mean, you don't have to give it a value right away. You can put a semicolon here and then go down and say age equals 52. And that's perfectly acceptable too. And that, an integer. So I guess the next thing to talk about is data types. And we declared this a integer. And an integer is a whole number. It could be positive or negative. And so if I try to type 23.42, Eclipse is going to tell me I have an error. It's going to say type mismatch cannot convert from double to integer because 23.42 is a double type, not an integer type. So I'll keep this as 23. And since we just mentioned doubles, let's talk about doubles. Double, what's a good double? Price. That's a good double. Equals $5.99. And so a double is, the same kind of statement as an integer, except a double reserves more memory space, which means it can use decimal places instead of just whole numbers, which is a huge advantage, and you'll use doubles all the time, especially if you're working with prices. Another data type is a float, and a float is a number with a ton of decimals. It really is like this. Hold on. F. You gotta put an F at the end. But a float, we're done talking about integers. A float number is a double, pretty much, except it reserves even more memory space, so you can have even more decimals than a double. Although you can still have a lot of decimals with a double. But this one I could go really, really long, but I'm not going to. And since I just mentioned long, guess what? There's a long data type. Sorry, I just typed letter in there. Oh, yeah. Okay, so Eclipse is going to tell me that this is out of range for a long. Longs are big numbers, but they're not that big. I can't remember the exact number, so I'm just kind of guessing until Eclipse gets rid of its error. Yeah, longs are really big numbers. They might have some decimal places. I don't know why I'm having such... Yeah, we'll cast it to a long. Anyways, I can't remember the exact format. You can always cast things into different data types, which we'll go through later. And longs aren't really important. You're rarely going to use them. But anyways, now that we've talked about some different number formats, let's talk about text, because text is represented differently in programming. So we'll start with a character. And a character basically represents just a character, if you know what that is. That's not a very good definition. A character can be a letter, and it's normally defined like this, with a single quotation and the character in between. But a character does not have to be a letter. It could be a plus sign, it could be a number, it could be a symbol. Just about anything on your keyboard could be a character. And so it's pretty useful. Characters, you don't really use them too much. The advantage to the characters is that when you put multiple characters together, it creates text. And so there's another data type called a string. And a string of characters is text, which let's call it name. So name is a string, and we define it with double quotation marks. You can put anything in it, again, numbers, letters, symbols. I mean, it's free range inside a string. There's some escape characters that you might want to look out for, but we'll talk about those later. So those are your basic variable types that you're going to use more than anything else. What do I need to talk about? That's really all that I have planned for this tutorial. Well, let's change our output a little bit. So, to use a variable, it's really easy. You just need to reference the name of the variable. So, let's say and change a few things real fast. I don't think I've explained this yet. So system.out.println is a command we used in the last tutorial, and it is extremely useful, especially when you are just starting to learn how to program, because right now you guys aren't really ready for GUIs and graphics, and we're gonna use this for all of our output. And What this really means is system is a class just like main, but it's a class just like main, but it's provided to you by Java. So you don't have to write this class. This is something that Java created for you to use. So it's the system class, the out variable or object, and the method print line. And I'll get into a lot more details about what these different things are, and like you can have statements that go way past the end of the end of the screen. But right now that's not really important. Right now what you need to know is this line will take a string in between these two brackets, which is why we typed hello world in there, and then it will print it out to the console like we did in the last tutorial. So we're just going to say name, and then we're going to add another string to it, is space, and then we're going to add age, and I don't have to turn age into a string because Java is going to do that for me, which is really nice. Age plus, so let's say John is 23 years old, so we'll say space years old, and then let's go back and do this. I don't know, the B could be his last name, just because I want to use a character. Letter. Okay, so let's see what we get. We get John B is 23 years old. And that's pretty simple. This is a very, very simple program. I know we don't do too much. There's a lot of things I'd like to get done in this tutorial series, and eventually I'd like you guys to be able to develop your own computer games in Java and be able to make your own structures and stuff. But right now, this is what we're going to start with. My tutorials are very simple. I'm trying to try to get you guys programming first, and then we'll start thinking about object-oriented programming, and we'll get into more complex topics. But for now, that's all I have to cover, and if you like my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, because that's what's going to keep me making these videos. So for now, this is it, and I'll see you guys next time.